everyone, it's Sarah. I am in my kitchen and I am getting ready to celebrate with a big sweet dessert. For me, I love sharing desserts and I don't think a party is complete without a sweet finish. So I am making today my Hojicha bundt cake with miso caramel and black sesame whipped cream. I know it sounds like a mouthful, but it will be a delicious mouthful in the end, promise. So this dessert is made of 3 different elements: the Hojicha bundt cake, which is kind of like a butter cake, then the miso caramel sauce, and the black sesame whipped cream. So those 2 elements both feature French cream. I'm going to use that today. It has this really lovely creaminess that lends itself super well to cooking and to whipping. So that's how I'm going to get it in there. And I think that all these different Asian ingredients, some of my favorites actually, come together perfectly with the cake and the French cream to make this a beautiful finish to a gathering or a meal. The first thing I'm gonna do is make my Hojicha bundt cake. So if you don't know, Hojicha is basically Japanese roasted green tea. It has that green tea freshness, but it's really nice and aromatic, really toasty and nutty. So I'm going to take some milk and I'll bring it up to a simmer. I'll throw the Hojicha tea leaves in and then I'll let it just infuse until it's totally cooled down and strain it out. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. It is just milk and Hojicha, but it smells beautifully nutty. This is gonna give the bundt cake so much flavor. So I'm just gonna pour that in. And to that, I'll add 5 egg yolks. That's gonna make the bundt cake really nice and rich and buttery as well. This is one of my favorite ways to make cake. It's called the reverse creaming method. So normally you mix the butter in with the sugar, then you add the eggs and then the flour last. But this way, we actually put the dry ingredients and then the butter, we toss that together, then the wet ingredients go in. It makes the cake really tender and soft and beautifully light. So the plain flour is just gonna go in here to my mixer bowl, caster sugar, baking powder for that lift and airiness, and a little bit of salt just to make all the flavors kind of pop. I'm going to stir all these dry ingredients in the mixer just for like 30 seconds so they get to know each other. Whisking the dry ingredients like this also means that you don't have to sift anything, which is great because nobody should have to sift, really. Nobody has time for that. Now I'm gonna take my butter, which is softened at room temperature, and just throw in little cubes right into the dry ingredients. And then just mix this together on a low speed until you get something that looks kind of like sandy crumbs. So that's exactly what you're looking for. With the mixer still going, I'm going to pour in that mixture of the Hojicha flavored milk and the egg yolks. And when everything is incorporated, I'm going to turn the speed up to like medium-high heat and let it go for around 1 minute until it becomes really nice and fluffy and pale. I have my bundt cake pan that I've already sprayed with cooking spray to make sure that the cake really doesn't stick. So just scrape your cake batter into the cake tin. And the cake just bakes in the oven for around 45 to 50 minutes. You want it to be totally cooked through, so if you stick a cake tester in, it should come out clean and it's gonna smell so good. While the cake bakes, I am going to make maybe my favorite element of this dessert, the miso caramel sauce. It sounds weird, right? You think of miso soup, but salted caramel is popular the world over. And what is miso except a really nice salty ingredient with a little extra something. So this is going to be really complex and beautifully sweet, but with that savory hit. That's the way I like my desserts. So I'm going to first make a caramel, white sugar into my pot, and then some water. And this is super important. You want to stir it together without any heat on at all. Once the sugar starts to caramelize, do not stir it at all. It will crystallize. You won't get that beautiful golden brown smooth caramel. So now I'm going to put it on a medium heat and and watch it slowly turn into beautiful caramel. My caramel is beautifully brown now, so I am going to pour in the French cream. It's gonna bubble up a lot, so that's why I'm using a big pot. And stir it together. Smells so good in here. The caramel sauce is looking beautifully glossy, golden brown. It smells amazing. I mean, honestly, I could just go for a dip in that. Yes. The reason French cream works so well in this is because it has a really clean dairy flavor. It doesn't have too much acidity or oiliness, so it's a perfect flavor carrier. And in this dessert recipe, I'm throwing so many Asian ingredients in there. You've got your Hojicha tea, you have the miso, the black sesame. So the fact that the French cream carries those flavors really well means that this is going to be a super yummy, delicious dessert. Now I'm just going to take my miso paste and stir it into the caramel sauce. And the smell completely changes once the miso is inside. I mean, it had that really sweet caramel taste, and now you're getting hints of rice, this really beautiful floral fermented smell. So this is caramel, yes, but it's a very grown-up adult caramel, you know, for grown-ups like me. Not really. I'm just gonna strain the miso caramel sauce to make sure it's nice and smooth. I mean, clearly this is a lot more of the miso caramel sauce than you will need for one Hojicha bundt cake, but this makes extra for a reason. You can throw it on ice cream, use it to make a nice caramel coffee latte. Just drink it straight from the jar. It's gonna make your life so much better. You're welcome. I mean, look at this beautiful bundt cake. It's golden brown. So now the last element of this beautiful dessert is the black sesame whipped cream. So I'm using my French cream, and I'm gonna make this really nice and fluffy and whipped. French cream whips up really beautifully, and that's why it's really a favorite of pastry chefs everywhere. I'm not saying I'm a pastry chef, I'm definitely not, but I like my desserts, and so I want to make sure that when I'm using cream in them, especially in this climate here in Asia, it's a bit hot, you want cream that can whip up really nice and fluffy and also hold its shape after it's whipped up. It's so important. I'm gonna throw in a little bit of icing sugar just to sweeten up the whipped cream and also help it to stabilize and stay nice and stiff. And now I'll just whip this until it's nice and fluffy and airy and heavenly. It's really important that the French cream is cold from the fridge. That helps it to whip up into this beautiful cloud-like airy texture. To that, I'm going to add a little bit of this black sesame paste. This is just black sesame seeds that have been ground into a nice nutty aromatic paste. So I'm just going to add that to the whipped cream. And I'll also add some black sesame seeds. And I'm just gonna give this one final whip. It's already pretty nice and stiff and airy. I don't wanna over whip the cream. So just until it's combined and then it's ready. This black sesame whipped cream, it smells amazing. It's toasty, it's nutty, and the texture is really fluffy, airy, creamy. But instead of using this as a topping or a frosting for the cake, instead I want it to be a bit more organic. I'm going to top the cake with the beautiful miso caramel, but I'm going to serve it alongside the black sesame whipped cream. So you can dollop it alongside the cake and the caramel, just to give you that creamy indulgence as you eat. Time to taste what I might call my masterpiece because it's so beautiful. It smells amazing. That is so good. Buttery, but it has that subtle hint of Hojicha, that toasted tea flavor. Then you have the miso caramel sauce. It's sweet, it's unctuous, but it has that hint of savory saltiness from the miso. And then the fluffy, nutty black sesame whipped cream. I've used French cream in 2 of the elements here, and they're so different because the caramel sauce is beautifully glossy, it's really rich and oozy, and the black sesame whipped cream, it's airy, it's light, it's heavenly. All of these things go so unexpectedly well together, and this is a real celebration cake. As far as I'm concerned, this is a party on a plate. So I'm gonna party.